Hello and welcome back. We are going to talk about all the production changes or the production method changes in 1.9 as well as a couple of new buildings. Just kind of as a general heuristic or thing worth pointing out, everything in the development section except for Arts Academy, which really doesn't fit anywhere. It probably belongs in urban. But all of these will have an employment level of 1,000. A lot of them have their output changed as well. Universities give half as much innovation as they used to do, for example, but still reducing by 4/5 the level of employment in that and stuff like construction sectors is going to make it so that you pay a lot less of government wages overall. And so as a general heuristic, going higher on gov wages is not going to be as bad anymore, and lowering gov wages isn't going to save you as much to compensate. Taxes have been nerfed, and that is a change that's been made. But the most substantive change here is going to be the level of employment in all of these development buildings. With that said, this of course is going to be a spreadsheet video. I assume when you clicked on it, you were over the age of 38, the tender age of 38, because everyone knows you have to be 38 or over to look at a spreadsheet, and so I assume there are also no children with you because that would be flagrantly irresponsible. So let's jump into it. Coming and taking a look at the spreadsheet, we are just going to cruise through left to right, resources, agriculture, and industrial goods, and then consumers and non-exportables, and kind of go through things here. We, of course, did forget to change back this PM on this. That should actually be, where it is now. And then kind of scrolling down here, one of the major changes here is going to be to the gold mines. It's way less efficient per construction because output on gold mine for gold has decreased by, roughly speaking, 17 to 25%, depending on which PM level it is, per level. Gold mine used to be the most efficient per construction, kind of excluding a couple of agrarian things that were a little bit higher, but they tend to collapse in price, and so big nerf on the gold mine. This combined with the fact that there is a 20% construction malus in unincorporated territories makes the entire strategy of just conquering places with gold and building gold there significantly worse. You might have to wait for a corporation for it to be worth it on a per construction basis. I don't know if specifically minting was nerfed as well, because I don't know what the pre 1.9 minting levels were. I'd not be surprised if it is, and so the entire strategy is probably going to be worse. Now, the thing about that is, though, the strategy was so good and so insane, it's probably still good, and it's still probably pretty optimal to go for the gold states. It's just not going to be as good as it was previously. But other than that, no other changes to the resources as far as we can see, other than oil has a really, really nice sink for it now. So we'll get to that in just a second. Agriculture has some interesting things going on. Across the board, chem fertilizers was nerfed for every single grain PM, and then apple orchards was buffed slightly, but it doesn't offset the chem fertilizers nerf, and so we are going to see early on, since you can do apple orchards or citrus orchards, this type of stuff, we are going to see grain be better early on, and then slightly worse once we get to chem fertilizers. Once you get to the super late game, it's like, okay, that's fair enough. But in particular, the rice farm got turbo nerfed. It got turbo nerfed. Now it used to give you double the output, and now it's just 50% more per construction if we compare the fertilizer to it. But I think once you get to the chem ferts, it's not going to be as bad as 50% more, but it's pretty close. Or actually, it is basically 50% more effective. But the thing is it has double the employment. And so on a per worker basis, it is now way, way behind the other wheat buildings, especially considering it maxes out at threshing machine, and the other ones max out on a compression ignition tractor. Of course, you probably just use tractor instead, because the compression ignition one does use oil. That's not really worth it. And so just regular tractor. But on a per worker basis, it's now going to be way, way behind the other grain farms. Still going to be more efficient on a per construction basis. Still probably going to be worth pushing if you have a ton of pops. But if you don't have a ton of pops, the rice farms are going to be a lot weaker than they were previously, because the PMs just in general got nerfed, and per worker, you're not going to be producing as much grain with them as opposed to what it was before, which is it's just double a building or a building for the price of one. The big thing is the rice farms employ twice as many people. They cost the same amount of construction. So all the rice-oriented strategies will be quite a bit weaker, but they'll still probably be reasonably strong. I still think it's probably going to be a grain that's worth pushing if you are playing Japan or China, but other than that, it's a lot weaker than it used to be. Also, across the board in a lot of different ways, livestock ranches were nerfed, but they finally fixed the thing where labor-saving PMs, you could save over the max number of laborers. It used to be that you could put on so many labor-saving PMs on the livestock ranches that you could save over the amount of laborers there were, and in which case you would have PMs that would do like negative stuff without actually rewarding you. We actually probably should insert another column for electric fences plus rail fridge, because that will now not reduce you below 1,000 or below 0 workers, and in doing so not reward you. But generally, livestock ranches, slight nerfs across the board. However, it seems that there's a lot more demand for them, so they're probably going to just generally be more profitable, whereas before, meat was never demanded. I don't know all the consumption changes that have gone through, but the PMs themselves are a little bit worse. We see no other major changes to any of the plantations. Opium still is king, and I think that with your ability to specialize, it is worth noting that because opium is king and is just significantly better, when you specialize and then you dump consumer goods into someone's market, like opium, and this is going to be true with other goods, when you dump the prestige goods especially, other markets will start consuming them a lot more, and as they consume them a lot more, they will be able to actually drive up the price, and you will actually be able to ship more. I think this is a significant gameplay pattern that you can subvention consumer goods into people's economies and actually be able to leverage the fact that the PM is really strong now, as opposed to just exporting and the root size is not really increasing like they should because the pops underconsume it because they consume based on sell orders rather than based on production. The combination of subventions as well as prestige goods should allow you to overcome to some extent previous gameplay patterns that would make exporting it worse, and so knowing that opium is just way better than these other ones is probably worth it, but to kind of a lesser extent also understanding that the one that is also really good is going to be cotton plantations is going to be the next one where if you wanted to specialize in it, it would be worth it, but that's because it gives 25% throughput from cotton gin. So even though it looks the same in terms of per week construction 170, you have to keep in mind you are going to get extra free throughput in a way that no other building does. Also, that makes throughput less valuable on cotton plantations, or additional throughput, if you aren't leaning into it as a specialty. Okay, coming into the industrial goods here, we see our first major change is in motor industries. They no longer have automobiles. This is the only change. They're still doing everything else the same. Down here, we see a few changes in explosives industries. These changes might have even been in 1.8, and I just didn't notice them. But I don't think that was the case. They no longer demand any coal or any iron. Instead, they are demanding just fertilizer and paper and sulfur. In general, they have gotten buffed on most of the PMs. The efficiency per week of construction used to be... on the first PM, it used to be 11.3. On the second, it used to be 18.8. On the third, it used to be a 32.5. And finally, on the fourth, this is the only nerf, it used to be 67.5. So overall, much smoother experience regarding explosives, and explosives being much better early on. This will make the entire chain for ammunition much less painful, and this will also increase the value of both explosive industries and mines kind of in the early game, as well as all of the industries like dynamite and these types of PMs, because one of the things that was throttling them was that explosives kind of sucked super hard, and now they're not anywhere near as bad in the early game specifically. So explosives got a major buff overall, but as the final PM they got a nerf. Military shipyards, a same amount of per construction value, but the difference is they no longer demand any softwood, they demand only hardwood. And so if you have a place with a military shipyards, you probably want to do hardwood focus, if you're going to make a slight adjustment on the basis of this, or maybe something small to be worth keeping in mind, but not a major change. We have two new industries in the automotive industries and also in the ports. Automotive industries is insane. This is an industry, once you get to mass production, which to be fair, this is a tier 5 tech, that is 115 efficiency per week of construction. That is really, really good. That is, kind of approaching like some of the mines level of good to some extent. It's better than the sawmills, at base level, this type of thing. And this is really, really substantive. And so this is going to be a really big deal. This is the most efficient 600 plus construction cost industry per week of construction, and not only that, it's an 800 week one. Also notable is if we take it and care about per oil, the output per oil or the efficiency per oil, I think it's also just a super batting above its weight. I forget where we put that. Okay, the metric's far over to the right. The marginal net per oil on this industry is, I think, better than anything else. It only uses like 5 oil, which is fantastic. If you're going to use oil for anything, now use automobiles. Automobiles are just clearly hyper-usable at this point with the new building, and so you will probably want to use them rather than ignoring them, which has been the case with most of Victoria's history. Plane production and tank production are both worse. They decrease the amount of automobiles and replace them with planes and tanks, which have lower base prices than automobiles. So this is just kind of bad. But if the planes and tanks are sufficiently expensive, it's good. Or it'll make more money, this type of thing. Next up, we have the ports. Anchorage, of course, doesn't produce any merchant marine, so it's just a thing, but it only employs 200 workers. The other three levels employ 1,000 workers. These produce merchant marine since they only have 1,000 employees. They're going to be not very efficient per week of construction, but they are instead going to be quite efficient per worker, which is going to be nice, specifically at the later levels of modern port, although I don't know if you want to use oil in this way on the modern port for the ports. I don't know if this is a good oil sink. I think that there's probably better ones, especially because automotive industries are really strong now, that you probably just go industrial port. Also because I don't think you need as many convoys, but maybe it makes sense for merchant marine reasons and getting more trade and pushing more trade to something like this, because your trades will all be more profitable as your merchant marine gets cheaper. The ports produce merchant marine, and so leaning into ports is maybe something you do to push trade and to push other people out of trade. I don't really know the full strategy here in regards to that, but the trades happen in terms of their trades profitability is driven by margin, and one of the inputs is merchant marine. So you decrease the price of merchant marine, you improve the margin. Coming over on the consumer goods, we're going to scroll down a little bit. Power plants. Power plants now employ way less workers, so there is that. But their efficiency per week of construction has gone down considerably. It used to be 22.5, and now it's 6.5. It's down to 13.5 here. Or sorry, it went from 30 to 13.5, and it went from 42.5 to 20. But its efficiency per worker went up considerably because it's only 1,000 workers. Overall, I think that this is it's a nerf to the economic effects of power plants, but I think this gets rid of the annoying gameplay pattern where power plants would just not be able to employ up despite you running a shortage. Your ability to employ at buildings is largely going to be driven by your efficiency per workers, and so one of the effects of putting all these infrastructure buildings at 1,000 workers is that they are just generally way better at employing up, even if the PMs aren't going to be very good. So power plants are still going to be worth building because they give you access to a lot of really good PMs, and so that'll be good. Railways, on the other hand, have just generally gotten buffed across the board. The first PM is just as bad as it used to be, but the second PM went from 8.8 efficiency per week of construction to 12.5. On electric trains, it went from 16.5 to 17.8, and on diesel, it went from 19.5 to 21.5. Similar buffs for all the joint level trains, which you get from the power block thing that gives you better trains. Power block, what is it? I forget, it's like the infrastructure power block thing, but it does give you access to this better PM, but also more significantly, they are going to be way more efficient per worker because now they have 1/5 of the workers. So I think you're probably going to end up paying a lot less on subsidies on the railways, generally speaking. And so railways are going to be a decent sink, or they're going to be decently efficient per worker. If you take a look here, if we just scroll through and look at efficiency per worker, you can see that the railways aren't faring too bad in that regard, and so that's going to be something that's nice enough. So let's come back to the railways. it's going to, I think, overall kind of be, or this is overall a clear buff, because they're also more efficient per construction. The thing is, they're still 8,000 or 800 construction, so they still kind of are a little bit painful. A lot of little changes to the urban centers. Public trams went from like 14.3 value of 14.3 to 15, like very slight buff on public trams, and then gas streetlights went from 12 efficiency per worker to 36 efficiency per worker. So they're better, but the heuristic is you still just always turn them on. But I guess urbanization modifiers are going to be more useful than they were before. Yeah, these are the major changes. This is kind of what we've been through. The biggest one, of course, being that the 1,000 level employment, and also that the inclusion of the automotive industries and ports, and the automotive industries are quite strong now, and so this is going to be kind of how things roll out. Also pretty big nerf to the rice farms, but other than that, the changes aren't too big, yeah, that's what we have. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a little bit short. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Do the YouTube algorithm thing. Updating the spreadsheet takes a little bit of time, but it is updated in regards to PMs and this type of stuff. But other than that, you guys have a good day.